Jesus Trilogy, Book 1, The Four Messiahs, Chapter 29. Oh, Joseph, please hurry. Another pain's coming. Oh! She nearly shrieked with agony. The contractions were nearly 15 minutes apart, and she was feeling a lot of bladder pressure. She, however, did not have the urge to push that her mother had told her would surely come. Where was her mother now? Why hadn't they brought her along? God must be deserting her. A fear came over Mary and a very sick feeling. She began to cry again, but this time in earnest. Oh, Joseph, where is God? Where is Gabriel? Where is anyone? She went back to crying, and the bewildered Joseph didn't know what to do. Mary lay on the street corner, the dim lamp burning above her. The street sign above her read, King David Way. Despite her tears, Mary could make it out. She cried out, King David, where are you? Joseph put his hand on her shoulder and said, I am here, sweetheart. I know, I love... Her voice trailed off as another contraction came. It had only been 10 minutes. What are we going to do, Joseph? He closed his eyes as Mary cried on, Dear God, please help us. Your son needs you. He looked up at the sign across the street, King's Inn. He got up and headed toward it, but from across the street the woman came running. What's the matter? Then she saw Mary. Oh, dear! She knelt down and saw Mary crying. She also noticed Mary's very pregnant condition. You poor dear, she said as she put her arm around Mary's shoulder. Bring her over into our lobby. It's too cold out here. Joseph looked skyward and then picked Mary up in his huge arms. She had gained 29 pounds, but the added weight was no challenge for his strength. He set his love on the blanket in the small but tidy lobby. He went back out, secured Doris, and then returned. The woman whom he presumed to be the innkeeper was kneeling over Mary, her arm around Mary's neck, supporting it. Mary was starting to breathe heavier, and though she moaned, she did not yell out with this contraction. This contraction was 10 minutes from the last one, and even Joseph knew things were coming to a head. The King's Inn was the last motel left for the couple to check. It was on the south end of town, just a half a block from the south gate. There were 6 inns or hotels in the little burg of Bethlehem. Most were very small, and the other 5 had all been full. They had checked each one, and it was now dark. Do you have any rooms, madam? Joseph asked. Please say yes, Mary pleaded from the corner. I'm sorry. She truly was. Does God want this king to be born out in the street? The woman looked at Joseph and Mary, a quizzical expression on her face. She's a little delirious, Joseph embarrassingly explained. The sign on the desk read, King's Inn, Victor and Florence, proprietors. Have you any rooms, Miss Florence? Joseph asked, looking down at the sign. I'm very sorry. Oh, Mary was having another spasm. What is your name? Joseph. I am Joseph, and this is Mary, my wife, he said. The woman had been somewhat skeptical when she first saw them, and actually glad she had no room. He was far older than his wife, always a sign of trouble. But her kind nature took over quickly. I don't know what to tell you. You could stay in the lobby, but... No, I can't ask you to do that, Joseph said, not really meaning it. Is there a doctor here in Bethlehem? Joseph asked. Yes, Dr. Preston is our local physician, but he's on vacation down by the Mediterranean. Where's the doctor when you need one? Joseph said disgustedly under his breath. Florence said, Dr. LaHare is filling in this week. Where is he? Victor, where is Dr. LaHare staying? A gentleman in his 50s, balding and a little pudgy, had come in from the back room. He immediately surveyed the situation. Sorry, I've been in the back cleaning up the stable. How can we help? He was nearly 20 years older than his wife. Suddenly there was a scream from the corner. Joseph, here comes another one. Mary was breathing hard. Florence ran over to her and put a cool cloth on her forehead. Deep breaths, long and steady. I can't do... Good, she said as the contraction subsided. Mary lay back almost limp on the blanket. Florence had placed a pillow under her head. Florence, we can put her in our own bed. We can stay out here. No, we couldn't. Joseph wouldn't hear of it. Please, I insist, Victor said. No, we couldn't impose, Joseph said firmly. Well, Victor thought, I just cleaned up the stable. There's an empty stall way in the back. It'll be a little cool, but it's clean. Well, you know what I mean. We would be most grateful, Joseph said. Florence helped Mary breathe through another contraction, then they helped her out back to the stable area. Just sign in here. I didn't get your name, Victor offered. Joseph of Nazareth. That'll be 7 shillings, Joseph. Joseph thought it a bit high for a stable, but he was in no position to argue. It had taken longer to arrive in Jerusalem in the area and had spent quite a bit more than Joseph had planned. He wasn't sure, but this might cut into his tax money. He couldn't worry about that now. God would provide, he hoped. You have Roman names, Joseph noted. Florence and I are from Napoli, south of Rome, Victor explained. Never been to Rome. Rome is magnificent, but Napoli, well, actually, the Isle of Capri is peaceful and so very beautiful. How'd you get here? Pardon me, you don't have to answer. It's none of my business. No. We've been here about 2 years now and traveled through here one day and liked it so much we stayed. A lot different than Napoli, but it has its own special brand of beauty, if you know what I mean. The sunsets are the most beautiful I have ever seen. Such beautiful reds and purples. I'll show you around tomorrow. Do you have another pen? This one seems to have run. Just then they heard a scream from the back of the house. Joseph turned and ran toward the stable area with Victor close behind. Victor, a loud voice said from the back. Joseph had arrived at the stable building 30 feet behind the house. He turned to see Victor and they went through the door almost together. Muscular Joseph and wide-bodied Victor didn't quite fit through the door together. After you, Victor said politely. Thank you, Joseph said, not knowing why they were acting so chivalrous in a time of crisis. Although there were 6 rooms for rent in King's Inn, there were 7 stalls in the stable, 3 on the left and 4 smaller ones on the right. As Joseph and Victor ran back through the hallway of the inn, a couple of doors opened. An old woman wearing a hairnet and a 6-year-old girl peered out. As the 2 men raced by, the doors quickly closed. Behind the 3 stalls on the left of the stable, there was a sort of a closet near the back entrance. The only open stall was the last one on the right. It was smaller than the others, only 4 by 8 feet. Hardly enough room for Joseph, Mary, and Doris, let alone a baby. Florence had spread blankets on the new hay, and Mary was lying on her left side, breathing very rapidly. Victor, get towels and some warm water and a clean basin in a hurry. Her tone was clear, and Victor didn't hesitate. He turned quickly and hustled back to the inn. The next contraction was only 4 minutes after the one before. Florence had taken 1 month's first aid course 3 years earlier in Napoli. Labor and delivery were covered very briefly, and then only for emergency situations. She wished she had paid closer attention. She herself had had 2 pregnancies. The first one was a long and arduous delivery which ended in a stillbirth. She had gone to Rome for the second one and had a new cesarean section. It was terribly painful. The doctor had told her that her pelvis was too narrow for a vaginal delivery and that she should have no more babies. She was left with a horrendous and painful scar from the top to the bottom of her abdomen, but thankfully her daughter was healthy, and she survived. Joseph was spent. The day came crashing down on him like a ton of bricks. He sat down on the floor of hay in the aisle of the stable. Mary continued her steady pace of contractions, now consistently 3 minutes apart. Joseph's mind began to wander back to his dear Rachel. How he had loved her, how their daughter was so precious. He wondered if Rachel was looking down on him. What would she think? He had always told Rachel he would love her forever. Now he was deeply in love with Mary. Life was difficult to understand, but he would just have to live with it, one day at a time. What if Mary didn't make it through delivery? Would Mary die as Rachel had done? He knew he could not survive the loss of 2 loves. Even the prophet Job had not lost 2 loves, and he was considered the man with possibly the greatest faith of any human ever. Joseph's old priest had said so in more than one sermon. How could he, Joseph the carpenter, survive such a tragedy? Gabriel had said the baby would be king of the world, but he didn't say anything about what would happen to him or to Mary.